welcome to part 3 of my guide to Pokemon Platinum, and we last left off just about to head into Lake Verity with Grav, because apparently catching legendaries is easy, so that's what we're planning on doing. So let's see what happens. A bit further, there we go. I personally don't see a lake, but whatever. Ah, we walk through the trees, that's fair. And what do we do but come in and we see a blue-haired guy who appears to be wearing a nappy. This is weird. I always found this really weird. He really does look like that. Now, of course, if any of you follow Jam8Tone, you'll have probably seen his video on during his walkthrough of GTA LCS of a mission where you had to actually go and photograph a guy wearing a nappy. Luckily, we don't have to do any photographing of this guy, because that would just be weird. Anyway, he's talking about time and space, and how he wants everything to be his, and what his name is, Cyrus. Cool name, by the way. And then he talks about the legendary Pokemon and walks off. And very rudely pushes us out of the way. Okay, that was random. Oh well, whatever. Now we're going to catch a legendary Pokemon. This is... what was that? That's... yes, I did. That was indeed the legendary Pokemon's cry. 3 points if you can guess which one it is. Yes, let's go and catch it with our amazingly non-existent Pokeballs, which you just realised we don't have. Well done. And then he spells it for us. I honestly couldn't read Pokeballs, so yeah, spell it out for us. Well done. Brilliant. Yes, if you don't have Pokeballs, you can't catch Pokemon, obviously, because they won't follow you and they'll hate you or something like that. Anyway, Grace, which we will never win because he runs too fast. Right, we are finally free to do stuff. So, I think before we head on to Sandgem, I will go over a few interesting things. Firstly, if you have a look at this screen here, we've got a few options now to play with. Firstly, Pokemon. This will list your team. The order it's in, basically the first one to go into battle will be the one that's where this Chimchar is. At the moment we've only got one, and we can check its stats here. Having a look at the summary, which I haven't done yet, so let's have a look. Okay, I didn't know all that stuff. Quirky nature. Nature affects what your it affects your stats. So certain natures will raise one stat at the expense of lowering another, and there are 4 natures, I believe, that do not have any effect at all. So yeah, Jam8Tone can talk more about that. Likes to thrash about. This is to do with its IV. This is another stat boosting thing that Jam8Tone will talk about, because he knows them a lot better and so can give a much better guide to it. Don't have to worry about those 2 things if you're just playing the game basically. Those are only things you need to worry about when you're playing the game at a more advanced stage. Same with Happily Eats Everything. So, oh, no, actually no, Happily Eats Everything, that refers to Poffins, which I'll go through when we get to those, because those are actually quite important for my team plans. It'll also tell you where you met it, what date, and what level it was when you met it, which is nice. Next along the line is your stats. I'll just quickly go over these. Hit points, fairly obviously, the number of hits you can take before you go down. Attack, this refers to the amount of damage that your physical-based attacks will do. Physical-based attacks are attacks where you basically hit the target directly. So punching it in the face, for instance, is a physical attack. Physical defense is the opposite of this. Determines how well you can take these hits. Same goes for special attack and special defense. They're attacks that, usually ranged attacks, that do not directly target the thing in a physical hit. So something like, say, a flamethrower or a psychic or something like that, a thunderbolt. Those are all special attacks, and special defense works to defend against those. Speed is a stat that determines which Pokemon will go first in the turn base. So if you're faster than your opponent, you will obviously hit first, which can be quite good. And down at the bottom there, the ability, which each different Pokemon has its own ability. Some are useless, some are not. In the case of a starter, it will always have either Overgrow, Blaze, or Torrent, depending on which one it is, which type it is. Blaze is the fire type one, and it will power up your fire type moves when you are in the red. This is useful if this is your last Pokemon and you can't switch out or something like that. Torrent is the same for water, and Overgrow for grass. So yes, and then your moveset, which will allow you to have a look at them directly. If you can, that's the close window button. If you hit A here, you can have a look at the power category. That tells you whether or not it's physical, which Scratch is, or special. The power, which is the base power, how hard it will hit if you had nothing at all. That is modified by the relevant stat. If it's a physical move, that will be modified by your physical attack. And the accuracy, which tells you how likely you are to hit. If the accuracy has 3 dots, that means it will never miss. This is very useful because certain Pokemon like to use strategies like Minimize, which lower your chances of hitting them, increases their evasiveness. So yes. And then it gives you a little description of the actual workings of the move, which I always found interesting, seeing as some of them don't seem to be described very well. And Leer, that category there, the Yin Yang, is a status. This means that it won't actually cause damage, and thus there is no power base. The accuracy is, however, still present, and it tells you what happens. So the target's defense stat is reduced. Now, there are occasionally actual attack moves that have a power that's greyed out, and there's a special moves, things like Dragon Breath and things like that, that will do either a certain amount of damage or are completely based on other stats. I'll talk about those when I come to them. Right, so that's about that. Pokemon, that's one of the most important windows you'll ever use. Next, I'll go through the trainer card, because that's short. Gives you your ID number and name, like you didn't know that. How much money you have, always good to know. Your score, intriguing. The amount of time you played the game for, and when you started. And on the bottom screen, I'll just show you, pictures of all 8 gym leaders in the region, which will have a badge on top of them when you've encountered them. And if you open that badge case, just a sec, you will have access to your badges, and you can play little tunes on them because for some reason they resonate. Whatever, that's pointless. And if you hit A, you'll turn it over, have a look at your Hall of Fame debut, which strangely enough we haven't got yet, and online stuff, including signature if you've done that. So yeah, that's a bit pointless. It's really only useful for checking your cache, and you can do that at any shop. And last but by no means least, the bag. This is very important. The bag, unlike in other games, is unlimited space. You will never run out of space for this. You've got it set to be divided into certain numbers, certain pockets. Items will be items that can be held by a Pokemon, or that can be used on a Pokemon to gain an effect that is not either stat or health based. So if it's not a medicine or a drug or something like that. So an item like a stone, an evolution stone, you use that on a Pokemon, it will evolve. And there are other items which will raise the power of certain moves or cause certain effects, like you can only use one move but it's extra powered, or you'll get better EVs or something like that. And also items that you can sell are placed in here. So yeah, that's worth looking at. You get plates later on which really boost your type moves. Next along the line is medicine. All items that can be applied to the Pokemon to either heal them, increase their power points, which is the number of times you can use a move. That's told that you get told that on the moveset. I didn't mention that before. Those items are not quite so easy to come by, especially not the good ones. And also status cures like anti-paralysis and anti-poison and things like that. I'll go over those when I get to those. Also things like drugs, which are which are items that will boost EV in a certain move. So you'll get a +1 to, if you use iron, you'll get a +1 to your defense when you level up next. Always useful to use before the Elite Four, and you get a few of them. Don't buy too many of them though, unless you've got loads of money to spare, because they are very expensive. Next, your Pokeballs pocket, which is empty as well. Everything's empty at the start. This will contain all of your Pokeballs. All the various different types, from your basic Pokeball, through the Great Ball, the Ultra Ball, maybe even a Master Ball, and all the special types that you get that are dependent on certain things to be better or worse. So, yes, that's good. TMs and HMs. TMs are one-use items that allow you to teach a move to certain Pokemon. Certain moves cannot be taught to certain Pokemon, so yeah, that's an interesting way of using your items to train your Pokemon up. That is going to feature quite heavily in this, obviously. HMs are special moves that can, again, work on the same dynamic, but they cannot be forgotten. You can't just learn another move on top, and they are infinite use, like the TMs are in the new generation. So yes, that's good. Next, berries. Berries are naturally grown items you can find around the world that will have various effects. They're used for poffins, and they can also be used to assist you with certain battle things, such as, say, a Persim berry, which will cure confusion. A Pokemon can hold these, and when the berry use becomes useful, will automatically eat it without wasting a turn. This is useful because it allows you to use them for strategies or as an emergency healing item in case you need it. Next is mail. I won't go over that because I personally don't see any point in it at all. I never used it before, and I probably never will. Battle items. These are special items that can be applied as a one-use each battle to your Pokemon. These, again, I don't see much point in them because they'll boost a stat, but if you switch out you'll lose that boost and it isn't permanent, and the item is one use. So I find it better to sell these, as they at least give you some money. And finally, the key items, which are human use items, items that only humans can use. They include things like the bicycle, when we get that, and various other things. They cannot be given away or sold. So yes, you get a key item, you'll always have it. This can be both a blessing and a curse, because when you're trying to find things and you've got too many key items, it gets annoying. Anyway, that's that. So I think having covered the menu options and everything, that was, as I said, I'm going to try and get everything into this, so I'm sorry if this was not very useful to you. I will probably end the part here now, and I hope to see you next time, and we will head to Sand Gem Town. Alright, see you later.